Video Games Recon.
Hello and welcome. My name is Nate from Video Games Recon. In this video we're going to be doing a review of
Destiny.
As an FYI, this review is based on the beta, as well as discussing my thoughts on how I'd like Destiny to pan out upon release and maybe even past that. However, if you're watching this a short while after the final release, I will probably do a part 2 of this review discussing how the full release compares and whether it lived up to expectation. Anywho, I guess we should start off with what is Destiny? Well, for those of you who have been living in a cave for the past couple of months, here's Destiny as described by the overview on the official Destiny website.
In Destiny, you are a guardian of the last city on Earth, able to wield incredible power, explore the ancient ruins of our solar system, from the red dunes of Mars to the lush jungles of Venus, defeat Earth's enemies, reclaim all that we have lost, become legend.
And it continues from there, but it's mostly marketing spiel. So, to cut a long story short, you're a resurrected warrior who has been brought back to life by the Traveller, a sort of extraterrestrial demigod who had during the Golden Age helped humanity to live up to its potential. However, its ancient enemy the Darkness caught up with it and wounded the Traveller, leaving our solar system vulnerable to attack by the Darkness's followers, who then systematically hunted down all of humanity, forcing us back to Earth, where the Traveller, in a last-ditch attempt, created a safe zone around the last human city, so as someday we can reclaim what was taken from us and push back the Darkness. And I guess conveniently for those of us who want a cool story in-game, that day happens to be today. So, from here let's talk about the comparisons for this game, as if I don't, there's just going to be a massive elephant in the room. Then I'm going to talk about what I liked and what I didn't like, or at least what worried me about this game as it's still in beta. Then I'll brush over what I'd like to see in the future, give an arbitrary score as I know people just seem to love scoring systems, so they give a sort of closure, and then finish off with a summary. Okay, so the most obvious comparison is to that of Halo, as they are both created by Bungie, which is a fair comparison as at least from an art standpoint it has a very Halo sort of aesthetic and feel to it. The next obvious comparison is probably the most annoying one to the Destiny community, and that is Borderlands. But again, I think it's another fair comparison as a lot of the game mechanics are very similar. There are of course a few others you could throw in for good measure, like Call of Duty and some aspects from popular MMOs and RPGs. And although this all kind of sounds like a lack of imagination on Bungie's part, I think in a weird way all these comparisons play to its strengths, as Destiny has seemed to cherry pick a lot of the best features from all these games, like the art style and great audio from Halo, the free roam sandbox gunplay from Borderlands, the balanced shooter mechanics from Call of Duty, the skill trees and leveling up from RPGs, and the community events from MMOs. To call it a grown-up Borderlands with an immersive story and MMO/Twitch shooter elements isn't necessarily doing it a disservice, as long as all those elements are put together properly, as clearly a lot of people appreciate those elements from these very popular games, and for the most part Destiny has done exactly that. With that in mind, let's go over what I liked about the beta. As previously discussed, the art style and especially the audio for this game are impeccable, especially as I was playing the beta on the PS3, and for a very tired system the game looked and sounded amazing. Seriously, one of the best ever for this platform. Next, the gunplay. The firing mechanics of this game felt very satisfying and pretty well balanced, even in the PvP matches, for the most part. And your special powers referred to as supers in Destiny, such as the Nova Bomb and Fists of Havoc, are very, well, empowering. See what I did there? That's right kids, it's called a terrible pun. I'm sure there'll be plenty more where that came from. As we touched on earlier, let's discuss the PvP. Well, not much to say here, it felt solid and fun, and the super abilities and vehicles mixed it up a bit, although in general it's not all that impressive or original, but still fun. Then there's the Sparrow, which to be fair is pretty much a speeder bike from Star Wars, which is a joy to blaze about on, and although you couldn't fire guns from them in the beta, there may be possible upgrades for Sparrows in the future, which could include some sort of offensive weapons. And if not, you can always steal an enemy pipe and shoot some stuff up with that. The skill tree and weapon progression is decent, if not all that extensive or original, but still definitely adds to the game in terms of rewards for playing. I found the story, what little of it we got to see, very engaging and really helped to break up the game and stop it feeling like too much of a grind. And that includes within the missions, as your companion the Ghost narrates through the mission and helps bring a sense of purpose to what you're doing. Also, I especially like the public events, and to a lesser extent things like the Iron Banner, which although in the latter's case feels a little gimmicky, helps to bring a uniqueness and sense of wonder to the game, as stumbling across a public event for the first time helps to create a feeling of curiosity and inclusion which can lack a little if playing solo. The different races, classes and character creation is also very interesting, and helps you feel more of an individual. Although that said, the character creation options feel a little simplistic at the moment. Now, as for the things I didn't like and or worries me for what it might hold for the full release. First, there was no audio level adjustment option, which was a pain in the arse for those of us recording or streaming footage, as it was ridiculously loud through your headphones. However, I'm almost certain this will be added to the full release. Although I enjoyed the tower, I'm not sure I want to have to go back there for every engram I find, as that could start to feel a bit like a chore. The lack of loot, particularly in boxes or chests, was a bit of a letdown. I think the loot drops from bad guys were pretty well balanced, but in terms of loot chests there was nowhere near enough, and most of the ones you find seem to only have glimmering, which is the in-game currency. Now, I don't think they should go the route of Borderlands in terms of loot, as their drop system was just ridiculous, and most of the time devalued finding new weapons, as it was so easy to acquire new ones and throw away old ones, making it difficult to get attached to a weapon. That being said, Destiny could at least triple the amount of loot chests and put some better stuff in them. Hopefully this was just for the beta, and in the full release they will rectify this issue. Also, the reuse of areas started to become a little tiresome, especially in the free roam beacon missions. I understand why they did this, as it's an easy way to put out extra content, but can leave the missions feeling a little cheap. It may be that I only noticed it because of how short the beta was, and that in the full release there will be so much to do I won't feel the need to backtrack straight away and overplay a certain area, at least all in one go. And next, the vehicles on the PvP map felt way too overpowered. Hopefully they'll have the good sense to nerf these a little. Something that really started to annoy me was the gestures or emotes, as like most people I thought they were really cool. However, it soon became clear to me that they were about as much use as a chocolate teapot, as they conveyed little meaning, whereas more simple commands like hello, follow me, join my fire team, okay, no, go away, things of this nature would have been much more useful. Although, dancing like a prized numpty and whatnot is fun, but it's a case of style over substance. Adding controllable spaceflight would have been a nice touch, although I get why there isn't any, as it would have been a large expenditure of resources that probably couldn't be justified at this point, but definitely something I'd like to see at some point in the future. Another thing was the lack of ability to link up fire teams into more than 3-man teams, at least in the free roam areas, which seems to be a little bit of an oversight. And finally, the son of a bitch that is timed exclusivity. Man, just like everybody else, I hate this crap. Owning a PS3, I had to put up with this shit for years with Call of Duty. And although, for Xbox guys, the glove's now on the other foot, nice little mixed metaphor for you there, simply put, it still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, and I don't like it. I can kinda understand where they're coming from in trying to engage with players on a whole new platform, but I don't think this is the way to do it. And I speak as someone who owns a PS3 and will probably soon own a PS4, so I'm not exactly biased on this particular issue. The real downside to the beta is also potentially a strength, as the thing I felt lacking the most was content. Most of my criticisms are either small tweaks or just cries for more. More loot, more areas, larger fire teams, more story, more missions, etc, etc. And the good news about this is, if they put the work in, these things are easily rectified. And on top of that, it's always good to leave your audience wanting more. So, do I think this game's going to be worth it? Well, let's put it this way, I won't be cancelling my pre-order. Although the hype with these sorts of games is always blown out of proportion, I think there's more than enough here to keep my interest peaked. And this comes from someone who is neither a Halo or Borderlands fanboy, and thus not per se a natural audience for this sort of game. So to summarise, Destiny is a fun and engaging experience with a solid story and gameplay mechanics, and although perhaps not as revolutionary as previously hyped, its blend of game genres, high production values and immersive gameplay with added originality like public events and open world matchmaking, somewhat similar to an MMO, make this a truly enjoyable and fresh experience. Put simply, if you like any of the above, Halo, Borderlands, Call of Duty, perhaps with a touch of Skyrim, Final Fantasy and World of Warcraft thrown in for good measure, then this is probably going to be your sort of game, and thus, in my opinion, worth a pre-order.
It's time for the arbitrary score rating class system thingy.
I give the Destiny beta a 9.5 out of 10, a near perfect beta but could have done with just a tad more content. And I know this one's a bit of a stab in the dark, but I give the promise of a future full release an 8.9 out of 10, as there's still a few kinks to iron out from the beta to make this a truly classic game. But all this is just my humble opinion. If you played the beta yourself, I'd be interested to hear your opinions on whether you like the Destiny beta or not. So feel free to hit me up in the comments with your thoughts. Anywho, this just leaves me to say, if you enjoyed this video, please help support us by liking, commenting, sharing and subbing for more BS of a similar nature. Thank you and goodbye.